Patrick Lecture 87, which is a Q&A session. In week 3, I was looking at the energetic and spiritual complexity of things. And as part of that, we talked about images, which the guide describes in a very dense way in this Q&A in several occasions. And people said, wow, it's a little difficult to understand, but it would be. Basically, what the guide is doing is giving you a 2-paragraph review of at least 5 or 6 lectures. Now, the primary lectures on images are 38 through 41, 4 lectures. And then there's the idealized self-image, which is Patrick Lecture 83. And then after this lecture, 93, would be a lecture on the main image. These are all big concepts. They get lectures devoted to them. And here the guide is rattling through how they all interact. So yes, very complicated, not easy to understand. The analogy I gave was you take a solar system and you bring it down to the size of a marble, and you're going to have to think about it as you go through it because it's much, much more dense than the original individual ideas. So great lecture for a summary on images. The other thing that we went through, which does have to do with complexity, is the idea that there are no accidents, no coincidences, and no mistakes. When you read a lecture and you get, let's call it the wrong idea, it's not the wrong idea. It is an idea. And if it doesn't match with other people's interpretation or a teacher's interpretation, the idea is to see why they don't match. Where did you go? Why did you go in that direction? And what Patrick has taught me is that I go in this so-called wrong direction because I'm basing it on some preconceived ideas, some biases that I'm holding that I'm not aware of. So I think they're perfectly linear and logical and reasonable. And the only thing that tells me there could be a problem is they're diverging from other people. It's as if you watch a movie or read a book and you come away with a totally different interpretation than someone else. Instead of presuming you've made a mistake, the idea is to say, where did mine come from? Where did yours come from? And while it may be true that yours is more common or more popular or more people get that out of that material than go in my direction, instead of worrying about popularity contests or getting it right, the idea is to respect where you went, where your interpretation came from, and to learn from it. That everything is about learning. The example that I gave this week is that I arranged for a ticket online to a play in a theater that I've never gone to before. And I'm not terribly experienced. I don't go all the time, but I do online tickets. I know how to do that. But it turns out that this particular theater was doing a repertory alternating productions, which I didn't realize. Normally they're 6 weeks of one and 6 weeks of another, but they were alternating. So when I clicked, I picked the wrong play. Didn't notice when I printed my ticket, didn't notice when I went to the theater because both posters were displayed, didn't notice when I actually looked at my ticket stub, didn't notice until I was 5 or 10 minutes into the production, and suddenly I realized this is not the play that I had intended to see. I spent 10 or 15 minutes being a little agitated about that before I remembered the mantra, no accidents, no coincidences, no mistakes. You're supposed to be here. And with that, I relaxed and was more receptive to what was going on. And I got something out of that production that I would not have imagined getting from the description I had read of it. Now, that's not uncommon, because how would they know what it meant to me? How would they know how to stress how it would intersect with my life experience? So they might describe it from a more objective point of view or an emotional point of view that picked up another theme of the play that I don't relate to. But there I was, and because I was receptive, it hit me particularly hard. In the meeting that we had this Sunday, someone started off with an idea and saying, well, this is what I've got, and therefore. And my perception is that what happens is once we look at what is happening in the now, that we are continuing, there's an inertia, there's a momentum that was headed in a certain direction, something happens, and if it doesn't align with our agenda, our momentum, then we tweak it. What the next decision is to get back on track. And by doing that, we're not seeing what possibilities have opened up. So as silly as this may be, you are about to sit down and you spill something. Well, apparently you were supposed to be distracted by that. And some emotions were supposed to come up because you did something as relatively foolish as spilling a drink. And you may be late or you may be flustered. The idea of spiritual complexity is that that's going to add up. That's going to affect what you do in the next 5 minutes. Even if you attempt to compose yourself and attempt to reground and be who you were before you spilled the drink, somewhere in your being is making a foolish mistake, having to clean up. And the idea is to take advantage of that, to allow it to be. In my pathwork community of origin, where I originally studied pathwork, where I was trained to be a helper, that was one of the most powerful things I learned, was to accept what is and take a breath and realize that while I thought I was going to do or teach or hear or understand one thing, apparently the lesson plan has changed. And then I was suckered into being present for something that is now going to be different. I noticed how my teachers responded to realizing that something wasn't working, an event or an exercise that they were planning that went off the rails, and how they dealt with it and how they were in the moment and made very powerful teaching lessons out of simply being present instead of scrambling for the right answer or trying to get back on track. So that's what I found in this lecture. That's what was shared during the process. Now we're going to take a break for a couple of weeks because the International Pathwork Conference in Portugal, being held in Portugal, will be going on. So I'll be back, give or take, around the 7th of June. Don't know if I'll post any videos. So for the meetings and even for the videos, there won't be any. See what that does. See where that allows you to come up with your own interpretations of the study guides, which will continue to go out. I've invited those who get the weekly newsletters to go ahead and sign in and have a casual chat. For some of you who have not done this before, it might be an opportunity just to come in and see who signs in and to do something less formal than we usually have. So there's a summary of where we are in Pathwork Lectures 87. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. See you, give or take, around the 7th of June.